Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is TWiT News Special number 392 for Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023. Microsoft Build Keynote number 1. TWiT News is brought to you by ACI Learning. IT skills are outdated in about 18 months. You got to stay ahead of the curve. Future-proof your business's competitiveness with customizable, entertaining training. Fill out the form at go.acilearning.com/twit to get more information on a free 2-week training trial for your team. Hello, everybody. Leo Laporte here in the TWiT studios in Petaluma, California. We're going to go to Seattle, Washington in just a minute for the first keynote for Microsoft's developer conference, Build. This keynote will be Satya Nadella and Yusuf Mehdi talking about, I'm presuming, AI and perhaps Microsoft's future. The keynotes, there are 2 of them, and we're going to cover both of them. Tuesday is, I guess, the big CEO keynote, and Wednesday, perhaps more product-focused. We'll see. Sometimes we usually do these, and sometimes they're very interesting, and sometimes they're more just a lot of corporate talk and things like that. So we're going to find out in just a few minutes when Satya Nadella takes the stage. I see Christina Warren on camera right now. Hi, Christina.
Kenya.
They are talking about the Microsoft Imagine Cup, which is a developer competition for student teams.
Christina, tell me about the afternoon sessions.
Yeah, I'm super excited about Scott Hunter's building.
Christina still works as a developer relations person at GitHub.
That's great. There are also some really good sessions on OpenAI. Shocker, I know, we're going to be talking about AI at this conference. What?
No.
Arun Nets is doing analytics in the age of AI. I love it. Anybody at home, take a sip of coffee or water or whatever every time we say AI.
Both Rich and Paul, I think, are in Seattle for this event. There's Rich. I thought you were in Seattle for this event.
I am.
Oh,
I'm sitting in a hotel room next door.
You sacrificed the opportunity to sit in the audience just for us?
You're that special, Leo.
Thank you. Rich Campbell, of course, co-host of Windows Weekly and host of Run As Radio and .com Rocks, and we're so glad to have some expertise here instead of just me. What are you expecting today?
I mean, a lot of AI conversation.
Yeah.
The demand is huge. People are very excited, and they've been working like mad. There's going to be the expected improvements in the cloud and some dev tooling and so forth, but the AI is going to steal the story.
They're billing this talk as Satya Nadella, of course, the CEO, but then Yusuf Mehdi is expected to join. He is vice president of the Modern Life and Devices Group. I don't know what that means.
I don't know how you get that title. It's really something. I'm excited to see Kevin Scott appear. I bumped into him yesterday at Build at the pre-day. And, he came from LinkedIn. And he's been CTO for a long time, but he's largely been behind the scenes. This seems like an appearance for him, that he's sort of coming out heavily. A lot of the AI initiatives have been through the office of the CTO.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think he's an important player.
Mehdi's in charge of search as well. And of course, Bing has been a big beneficiary of Chat GPT. Mm-hmm. And I expect we're going to see AI in not only search, but in Office. They've already previewed that. And maybe in other places as well. Mehdi also runs devices. Do you think we'll see any hardware today or tomorrow?
I'm really not expecting new hardware. That'd be a surprise to me. It's usually the fall for hardware.
Right. The Surface events. Didn't they say initially Panos Panay would be speaking at one of these 2 keynotes?
Yeah, I thought so, but there's been a lot. It seems like there's been a lot of cuts.
It's been back and forth, hasn't it? Yeah.
There's a few other product teams that I'm close to whose things have been pushed out to after build.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to go pretty quickly as soon as Christina and her cohort complete their
the
tease.
technology to solve them, right?
You're like a tech therapist.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's definitely
It's always a
true,
little
but that's another
this
show, which we'll bring to you live.
Imagine Cup is always a little cringy
But,
to me for some
I
reason.
feel
I'm not
like
sure
the
why.
capabilities you had.
They're all
solve
trying to be
problems
excited. I
now
mean,
is
Christina's
so
a
much different.
consummate
Like,
MC. I
in
had
the last
dinner
6
with
months,
Caruana
we
last
do
night.
so
She's
many
getting
more
ready for
things,
this.
and I
He's going to be the hub of
see
the
what
story
that
today.
means for our
So she's got a lot to do.
creativity.
And Seth is one of the guys who used to run, was one of the main hosts for Channel 9 for the longest time.
Yeah.
But he actually has a strong background in machine learning. He has actually a master's degree in mathematics. He's brilliant.
Wow.
And it's one of those things where eventually the company figured out, like, what are you doing at Channel 9? And they put him into, it's like, we need you in machine learning and we need you there now.
So we expect, about an hour and a half, 2 hours perhaps of the keynote?
Yeah, at least an hour and a half. I heard them rehearsing last night. It's
then what's going to happen. You're ready.
I know some things, but
okay. Anything you want to
never
tell
know
us?
how it's actually going to present. I think we've sort of tipped it off. Like it's exactly what you think it's going to be. It is a bunch of tooling to let you bring those large language models into your business and into your work.
The way they're billing it on the web page is that Satya Nadella prepares you for the AI future or something similar. So I look forward to seeing exactly what he has to say. We're still waiting. They're a little bit behind. It's 3 minutes after 9 already. They are not quite ready. Did they feel? How much does Microsoft rehearse these? Of course, the legendary Apple keynotes were rehearsed often for weeks ahead of time.
Yeah, I don't know that they go quite that far, but everybody I know who's involved in it, it's been all weekend.
Yeah.
And they were working yesterday and yesterday evening as well. I mean, they let Caruana go out to the creators dinner last night, so at least she was able to get out a little bit.
Nice.
But,
the tagline for this speech is Satya Nadella shares how Microsoft is creating new opportunities for developers across our platforms in the new AI era. And it just sent me right over to the page. If you do, I should warn you, want to watch Satya's speech without commentary. Microsoft is streaming that. You should be able to find that at build.microsoft.com without our chatter. But if you'd like to know what Rich Campbell thinks, less so me, but more Rich Campbell thinks about what you're hearing, I would stay tuned to this stream. So we're going to carry the Microsoft stream in a Mystery Science Theater 3000 fashion comment on top of it. We've even got those little bubbles, you see, so we can float around in the keynote.
One moment. Yep, they're telling me because this is live, and we are now going to hop onto something else. Throughout our show,
something's
we'll be
going on
introducing you
stage.
to creators and Microsoft MVPs,
they're telling them
our most
stretch.
valuable professionals, making a difference and engaging
They
with our
must have had a
communities
script
around
ready
the
for
world.
this.
This is one of those MVPs.
Yeah. I should, by the way, while we're watching this commercial, thank our folks at ACI Learning for sponsoring our live news content. ACI Learning, if your IT training isn't raising your team to its highest potential, you need ACI Learning. Future-proof your business, retain top talent, and upskill teams with ACI Learning and their team of dedicated account managers. The training industry's completion rate about 30%. People bail, lots of them. Not at ACI Learning. They blow their competitors away with an over 80% completion rate. Why? Because it's good stuff. It's compelling. It's interesting. People want to take these classes. That's why your IT guys will be thrilled, and gals, to be getting this. It's kind of a great benefit you can offer. Your enterprise needs cohesive, cutting-edge training to keep your team compliant and ahead of the pack. Compliant as in compliance. Choose an existing course. Let ACI Learning combine modules for a tailored solution, or you can even have them custom design a course to address your business's specific needs. This is the format that IT professionals want. Fill out the form at go.acilearning.com/twit to get more information on a free 2-week trial for your team. We thank ACI Learning for making our TWiT special news broadcast possible. They're still stalling in Seattle. There may be a wardrobe malfunction. I don't know.
The time has come for our
go.
first keynote. Now, over to Microsoft Chairman and CEO Satya Nadella.
This is live, right, Richard? This is not pre-recorded. Yeah, I think we just proved that. And what is this space?
This is the new convention center. This was built during the pandemic.
It's quite beautiful.
So, yeah, it's gorgeous. I was walking through it yesterday. But
Downtown Seattle?
The old convention center is like a block away.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
This is 8th and Olive.
Okay. Reminds me a little bit of San Francisco's Yerba Buena Center, a little bit. Moscone Center. Has that. I guess when, a convention center, there's not too many possible designs.
Concrete, glass, and wood.
That's it. In a box.
Yeah, in a box.
In a box.
This is new.
This is interesting, too. This must be the new AI logos. Do you think it's AI generated? Feels like it. I have to say, I should prepare folks. I am an AI skeptic. I think AI at this point is just a parlor trick. Just Eliza on steroids. And I am very skeptical.
Not going to argue with you there, Leo.
Yeah, I'm very skeptical that it will become any sort of thinking machine.
Oh, I'm not worried about that at all.
Yeah.
I think it can help people without trying to have any.
Yeah. We have to understand what the limits are. But these days, corporations are raising huge amounts of money by just painting anything they're up to with the brush of AI, much like blockchain a few years ago.
Yeah, true enough.
This is a demo of the Bing chat. Please don't write Satya's speech, okay? Oh no.
It's like reading my mind. It's magical.
Yeah, this is what I don't like, is this kind of, it's magic, it's reading my mind. It's not. Yeah. It's really
scale
not.
Like never before.
And the music AI generates is crap.
And just runs with it.
It can't drive your car reliably.
Yeah. It's funny what's a hard problem for these machine learning models and what's an easier one.
Well, I'm kind of the opinion that the first 90% of a lot of this stuff is easy. It's easy to do the mediocre. Very, very hard to do that last 10%. Almost perhaps impossible.
And puts that time back.
We always try that. We try to do that. We're always impressed by the first 90%. And I think people are projecting into the future. Well, look at the growth we've had in the last 6 months. It can only continue like that. And I think that, no, there's a natural limit.
The big race, I think part of the reason for the serious hype right now is that these large language models are incredibly expensive to operate.
Yeah.
If they don't get a huge number of customers quickly,
right,
they're going to have to shut it down.
Right. I don't think we're going to see an AI winter again. That's happened before. But I do think there'll be a time when we'll maybe be a little more skeptical and say,
Well, AI winters are really about funding for research, and one would argue that in a lot of ways that funding's already dried up. We're doing a lot of engineering right now. We're implementing.
Now it's productizing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Here comes Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft.
Here he is.
Very casual. Sneakers, sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Practically hoodie. Yeah.
Good morning. It's fantastic to see you all. Welcome to Build. All of those, you made it here. It's fantastic to be back.
He's gotten much more relaxed.
And everyone joining online. These developer conferences are special.
He went to CEO school, and it shows.
Places to be, especially when platform shifts are in the air.
Take off that suit.
I distinctly remember my first PDC in 1991. Driving up 101 into Moscone Center, and my life changed after that developer conference. So it's exciting to be able to come back to Build 2023 with that same sense of anticipation of something big that is shifting around us as developers. To just sort of put this in perspective, in fact, last summer I was reading Mitchell Waldrop's Dream Machine while I was playing with DV3.
Noticeably more conversational. One of the knocks I've always had on Satya is he would get into business speak very quickly, and it would be very difficult to grab hold of whatever it was he was trying to communicate. But this is much more.
I think that concept of Dream Machine
conversational, I think.
Perhaps best communicates what we have really been doing over the last 70 years, right? All the way starting with what Vannevar Bush wrote in his most seminal paper, As We May Think, where he had all these concepts like associative memory, or what Licklider was the first one who even conceptualized the human-computer symbiosis, the mother of all demos that came in '68, to the Xerox Alto, and then of
the
course,
Macintosh.
the PDC that I attended, which was the PC Server 1 in '91. 93 is when we had the Mosaic moment. Then there was iPhone and the cloud. And all of these will be one continuous journey. And then, in fact, the other thing I've always loved is Jobs' description of computers as bicycles for the mind. It's sort of a beautiful metaphor. I think it captures the essence of what computing is. But then last November, we got an upgrade, right? We went from the bicycle to the steam engine with the launch of ChatGPT. It was like the Mosaic moment for this generation of the AI platform. And now we look forward to, as developers, what we can do going forward. And so it's exciting time. And in fact, every layer of the software stack is going to be changed forever. And no better place to start than the actual developer stack, right? We as developers, how do we build?
Copilot has been around for more than a year now.
In fact, when I think about
and really is
how we
Microsoft's
build,
big success.
I think about first code spaces, right? Being able to set up that environment in seconds versus minutes. DevBox,
2021.
Instead of waiting for a day for your managed DevBox to be set up, you have it in less than an hour. If you think about Copilot, what it does to you and Copilot X in terms of driving the overall flow and productivity, which is what, 54% or so.
I'm finding GitHub Copilot
and then, of course, GitHub Actions and Azure development dev environments, really making that possible for you to stay.
I think partly because we're learning how to use it, right? We're not depending on it.
Is, hey, I want to stay.
It's also who's using it and the fact that the compiler has a say. You know, that the code has to compile to be useful.
Right.
So a lot of dumb gets
that protects you.
Back both the joy of programming and the flow of programming. That ability to be able to stay on task is just so wonderful to see. So how we build software is radically different. But
have you used Copilot in your coding?
As developers, is really...
And you know what? I'm not going to call it radically different. It's just like I had a smart guy sitting beside me who said, try this.
It's pair programming with a computer.
I came in on January 1st and said, let's start doing press releases. But it does feel like that. It does feel like every week there is something new. And, we're infusing this new AI stack across all layers of it, right? So we started with tooling in GitHub, or rather Copilot in GitHub. We did Copilot in Power Platform. When it comes to productivity, Copilot in Microsoft 365, Copilot in Viva. In business process, it's the Copilot in Dynamics 365. When it comes to industry sort of workflows, what Nuance has done with DAX, or the security Copilot, or the Copilot, of course, for the web in Bing and Edge. Features in LinkedIn, which are driven by AI, and of course the AI infrastructure with Azure OpenAI APIs and everything
These
else
lists are
around
not helpful.
it. Right?
This is
not. Every layer of the stack is profoundly
humans don't do well
changing.
with this stuff.
And we today
look at all that.
Are going to, as part of this developer
it's like your worst nightmare PowerPoint slide.
50 plus more announcements.
Wow.
But I want to highlight 5 of them. The first is we're bringing search grounding in Bing to ChatGPT. We are very excited about this. Yeah, you can clap.
Yeah, if you knew what it meant. What is search grounding?
Look, ChatGPT is the most sort of fast-growing consumer app we've ever seen. And search grounding is a very key feature, right? So that all the information is current and grounded by what you have from the crawl and the index.
So they've been doing this with a plugin.
We're excited to be able to. It's going to launch in ChatGPT Plus immediately and quickly coming even to the free tier. And this is just the start of what
these are
we plan
plugins
to
that you
do
can
with
add
our
to
partners in
ChatGPT.
OpenAI to bring the best.
And adding
of
search would
the
bring it up to
ChatGPT
date. One of the
experience.
problems with ChatGPT is
Next, we're
it's not up to
bringing
date.
the Copilot to the biggest canvas of all, Windows.
And we knew about
We
this,
predicted
right?
this.
Yeah. This is essentially Windows
You're going
12.
to hear
We'll see if he
a
says
lot from
12.
Panos tomorrow about it, but
So
I
Panos
think
is
that
talking
this is
tomorrow.
going to make every user a power user of Windows. Let's roll the video.
This is what Paul's been saying is going to be Windows 12 as a kind of an AI.
It's the logical thing. It would actually be an important version of Windows for the first time in a decade.
Right. Look at that. It has a button right there on the taskbar, integrated into all of Windows. How can I adjust my system to get work done? That's a very open question. Take off Minesweeper.
There you go.
Oh, nice. So to this day, I use search and settings all the time, trying to figure out where to go to change something. Windows Copilot with Summarize. This is something AIs are actually very good at, is summarizing existing content. Spotify playlists? Satya likes the word flow.
Yeah, well, it's what we talk about as developers. Being in the flow.
You want to get in that mind state. Across all of Microsoft, it says.
Well, I think any product that's going to run on Windows now is going to want to hook into Copilot, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So we're going to talk a lot more about Windows, tomorrow when Panos is up here. The other thing that we're also very excited to launch is the Copilot stack, right? After all, we built all these Copilots with one common architectural stack. We want to make that available so that everyone here can build their own Copilot for their applications. We will have everything from the AI infrastructure to the foundation models to the AI orchestration all the way up to your Copilots and its extensibility. In fact, the other thing that we're going to do is have common extensibility across all of these surfaces, right? Whether it is ChatGPT,
This is what we wanted to hear.
Microsoft 365 Copilot, or all of the Microsoft Copilots. And of course, your own Copilots, we can share.
So as you're developing your own
same
software,
extensibility model. This is one of the
Copilot's
most
in
powerful
Foundation,
things
so you
for
can
your
easily add
developers,
AI
for every
to whatever
developer
it is
to be
you're
able to
developing.
write a
Is that
plugin and have it
what you wanted?
reach billions of users across all of these surface areas. So to be able to show you everything in action.
Well, you think about how much trouble
from
most
the plugin
organizations have for finding
extensibility to all of
information inside the
Copilots we announced.
organization.
Let me invite up on stage Yusuf Mehdi to come show you all
Yusuf
of this.
Mehdi.
Yusuf, let me throw it over to you.
Satya. Hi, everybody.
As
We're
I
making
mentioned.
fast progress on delivering our vision of your Copilot for the web and for business. And today, as Satya said, we're excited to announce that we're going to bring ChatGPT and Bing together as with the default search experience to give you higher quality answers and more timely answers. Let's take a look. Here I am in ChatGPT, and as you can see now, Bing is the default. And when I come in and select it, I can now ask sort of real-time queries. For example, let's ask what I should expect to hear about build and .NET.
This is, of course,
and what you can see is
the red alert
the results
for
now are
Google
more up to date.
is
They
that
include
people will
fresh
start doing their
content,
searches
and they
not on
include
Google.
citations. In fact, if you can see the links on that page there,
This just
you
didn't
can
make
click
Bing
those and
search better,
it'll
though.
take you straight
Yeah.
to a web page that's
Well,
sourced by Bing.
Yeah, maybe.
We're also excited. Yeah, absolutely. You can clap, Fred.
This would have been cooler if I could have switched that to Google.
Yeah. And you can imagine
We're
Google's
also excited
probably
to
going
announce
to do this
that we're
with their
going to bring
Bard
interoperability between
solution, their AI.
ChatGPT and Bing for plugins. So you write them once, and they're going to run everywhere. So as you can see here in ChatGPT, I've got Zillow and Instacart enabled, but I want to show them to you here in Bing.
Microsoft, a
So we'll flip
48
over,
or
and you can see
47%
again,
owner
I've got the
of
same plugins now in both Bing Chat and
OpenAI,
in
creators of
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. So
And what we're going to show you now is
if they
I'll
act
do a
as
search here
if
for
they own
houses
it,
in
they kind
Chicago,
of do.
and I can ask for a set of criteria, learn a little
effectively.
bit about the neighborhoods, and now I can automatically
It all runs
call
on
Zillow
Azure.
by
Yeah.
saying, hey, give me 3 houses in a certain price range that meet my criteria. And what you can see is now I get these great options, and I'm also going to get all of the other great things you get with Bing, like helpful city guides and maps and prompts.
This has been slowly rolling out to ChatGPT Plus users on
They're going to work not just in Chat and ChatGPT. They're going to work across the entire web, courtesy of the Edge browser. So here's an example. I'm on a web page here checking out a recipe for a cake, and now I can call Bing Chat and ask it to tell me, hey, give me the ingredients.
Bing Chat doesn't have a limit on the number of queries you can make.
Bing can read the context of the web page,
and it doesn't cost you anything.
Put them into Chat, and then I can say, hey, give me a shopping list for this. And it'll automatically call the Instacart plugin.
It's, as you pointed out, it's very expensive
and put them into Instacart shopping. And with
Sam
one
Altman,
click,
CEO
I can get those now delivered to my
OpenAI,
house.
said it's roughly 10x the cost of a Google search.
Let me show you now how. Yeah.
It's always a question of how much that $10 billion they gave was just
Let's show you how you'll be more productive
Right.
at work. Here, I'm going to use Microsoft 365.
Yeah, here's $10 billion in Azure time would be welcome.
Now I'm
probably.
in Microsoft Word, and I'm going to need some help for drafting a legal contract. I got a legal contract here, and I need some help with California law. So I'm going to call 3 plugins from Thomson Reuters to edit this document. First thing is I'll go into
a lot of this
Copilot,
stuff is already done in software.
I'll pull it up, and I'll say, hey, help me understand how to edit the limitation of liability using
I'd be a little
the Practical
nervous,
Law
though,
plugin.
as
It'll read the
attorney.
document, find the paragraph, and make that change. Next, I want to know if this is enforceable under California law. So I'll call the
those lawyers in the first
plugin
place.
that will do that
We know
analysis,
these AIs
and they'll come back
are
and give you an
frequently
analysis
wrong.
about it from a legal perspective.
I wonder how
And
they're...
finally, since we're making lots of changes, I'd like to know the summary of all of these changes. And with Document Intelligence, I get a simple table that shows you all of those changes in an easy-to-read format. By joining the power of Microsoft 365 Copilot in Word, with the support of these real powerful plugins like Thomson Reuters, now you can draft a legal contract in so much more powerful way. Let me show you one more. Here I am in Teams chat, and I'm engaging with Microsoft 365 Copilot to track website changes. Copilot will just call the Atlassian plugin to help.
So you could probably start hearing Copilot more than you hear the word Bing, I would imagine.
So it'll pull the Jira ticket automatically with the plugin, and now
Bing
all I
is a
have
little
to do
tarnished.
is assign an owner using the Azure Active Directory, and that's it. It's all done. So with plugins and Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can intelligent reason across all of your business apps and the data stored in the Microsoft Graph to keep you in your flow. Finally,
but this is the new GUI, right? This is a new user interface for everything.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. I don't know if it's a better GUI. It's verbose.
Your PC forever.
You're exactly right.
Let me show it to you. Here I am in a coding project on my PC, but I want to
we're going back to text interfaces, only with a lot more words.
All I have to do now is invoke the Windows Copilot.
Look at that. I mean, it looks like a command line.
I click on that, and now we'll pop up the Windows Copilot on the right. This side pane
is
here will
coding,
be
though.
consistent
Of course, that
across
makes sense.
every
I always
app.
wanted to make that right sidebar do something.
Just like the Bing chat, I can now ask it questions.
Instead of just
how
notifications,
can I
right?
adjust my system to get work done?
Yeah.
And not only will I get
So it looks like he's using Visual
suggestions, but
Studio
watch
Code
this.
for
I
this.
can now, with one click, take action on those suggestions. For example, I can put it into focus mode. I also know that as developers, we like dark mode. There's a suggestion here for dark mode. So with one click, I'm now here on the dark side. And to really get going, I want to get that coding playlist going. So I'll pull the plugin from Spotify and say, give me a great coding playlist.
This is the
in this case, Chill
video
Vibes will
that
come up.
Satya showed earlier.
And now I'll have it ready to go.
Yeah.
And finally, there's a suggestion here that says, hey, to organize your PC, let's take advantage of Snap. So with one click, it snaps all the
Those are all things you're going to do once at the first time you use your PC.
Super productive. What do you think?
Okay. So the one thing that you might do more than once is
So as
Spotify
you can see,
playlist.
we have an incredible array of powerful AI-powered copilots. We've got over 50 plugins already available for customers and thousands more coming. I can't wait to see.
Where
what
would
you're
I
all
see
gonna
those
build.
plugins?
Thank you very much.
Where do they show up?
Yusuf.
Besides on that
Yusuf.
slide.
We have, as Yusuf said, fantastic momentum already building. And this is about really creating that opportunity for developers to reach all users across all of these surface areas. And we are so excited to see how you go about exploiting that opportunity in the weeks and months to come. Of course, when we talk about the AI platform and the Copilot stack, the next thing for us, which is really exciting, is AI Studio. This is the full life cycle tool chain for you to be able to build your intelligent AI apps and your copilots. Everything from being able to train your own models, to be able to then ground, whether it's OpenAI or any open source model, with data that you bring, built-in vector indexing in Azure Search, built-in support for RAG or retrieval augmented generation.
They're going to need is built-in support for your Azure build
for prompt engineering.
when you use all these features.
And orchestration, and of course, built-in support for perhaps the most important feature, which is AI safety. One of the things that we've been hard at work
how do they do
to
that?
build into the tool chain AI safety. We've been at work on AI safety for the last 5 years. We have principles which we have translated into a core set of processes that we implement across our engineering stack. And then, of course, we have all of the compliance and oversight. But the real challenge is not just to have these things outside the engineering process, but to build it into the everyday tool chain. And that's what we're doing with AI Studio. And it starts with testing, where there is the responsible AI dashboard that helps you during the testing phase to ensure that what you're developing is safe. We have grounding, and in fact, the prompt flow is perhaps one of the best features for you to be able to ground your models. You have provenance for media provenance, for the support for images and videos and watermarking.
Who did you steal this image
your neural
from?
voice that's going to be available to all of you as you build your applications. And at deployment time, that's perhaps one of the most critical things, is we've taken all of the safety work we did, for example, for the launch of Bing Chat, and really made it available as just a set of features for any developer to use, right? You can take an OSS model and use the AI safety
This is, of course, what has kept other
really
companies from rushing into this space, is this sense that
and of course, then you can
might
even
be
monitor
risky, and
the model
Microsoft
for
has some
model
experience with
drift.
that with Tay.
And that way, then you can make sure that it's not just
They also
one
have
time, but you're
experience with
continuously looking
managing
to make sure,
inappropriate images
that
on
you have safe
the cloud in
deployment.
general.
So we're very, very excited about AI Studio, helping every developer out here to be able to build AI applications, but build them with safety first. Let's roll the video.
Introducing Azure AI Studio, a full lifecycle tool to build,
with a great
customize,
beat,
train, evaluate, and deploy the latest next-generation models responsibly. With just a few clicks, developers can ground AI models with their structured and unstructured data to quickly and easily build customized, cutting-edge conversational experiences for their customers. Developers can take advantage of a new model catalog that works with the popular models.
It feels like this is a little bit of a gold rush.
From Azure OpenAI service.
Without a doubt, it is.
And many other open source models.
Microsoft needs a lot of customers quickly.
Flow, developers can combine relevant data from your organization.
This prompt flow looks to be the most important part.
Better results.
This is profound.
Prompt flow works with
what is prompt flow? What is it?
Internally developed or open source models and uses popular open source
tools.
This
is the part where you're actually training it on what you want it to know.
So is it building a prompt for you? Looks like you have drag and drop modules.
Safety. We are making it easy
look at that.
to test and evaluate your AI deployments for safety. This is Azure AI Studio, the trusted.
As far as I've never seen any of this in the wild. This is untested, as far as you know, right?
This is all new.
Yeah.
And you notice the safety stuff is images and text. That's what they're talking about.
Interesting.
Safety.
Images, not hallucination,
all
but
AI applications start
with
data. And we're really thrilled to be announcing Microsoft Fabric. This is a product that we've been
something new?
Working very, very hard on over multiple years.
So many names.
It's finally coming together. It's perhaps the biggest
it's
launch
data analytics.
of a data product from Microsoft since the launch of SQL Server. It's really.
I wonder, how this changes BI. I think it probably changes it quite a bit.
It unifies all of the full analytics stack product experiences. It brings together governance, so it unifies governance with analytics. And most interestingly, it unifies the business model, right, across all the different type of analytics workloads, whether they're SQL, machine learning, whatever job you want, you can use the same compute infrastructure. And this unification at the end of the day is what I think will fuel the next generation of AI applications. Let's roll the video.
It's all about
Introducing Microsoft
unified.
Fabric, a unified data analytics platform. One product, one experience, one architecture, one business model. Unified data is stored in one lake, a SaaS data lake for the entire organization. Data is integrated and stored in an open format, allowing one copy to be used to train machine learning models, visualize data, and run SQL queries on the lake and data warehouse. A unified experience brings together all the tools data professionals need: pipelines for orchestrating data movement, experiments for training machine learning models, semantic models for defining key metrics, and much more. And for business users, Fabric brings together data for collaboration.
This all makes a lot of sense. If you can trust it, if it's accurate, this seems like a good way to do it.
Unified governance.
Well, it's as accurate as the data you feed it.
It's built in for all your data.
Well, or is it?
And with Copilot,
I mean,
Microsoft Fabric, AI helps.
We know
everyone
AI
be more
makes stuff
productive.
up.
Whether it's writing SQL.
Well, we're really, this whole one lake thing is about trying to create a consolidated view of the data in your organization.
So it's only working from the
data,
lake.
All your teams.
Yes.
All in one place. This is Microsoft Fabric.
Is there evidence that helps with hallucination, that it's grounded in a single database?
The AI
It's not going to make stuff up.
For the infrastructure layer, Microsoft Fabric will do to the data layer for this next generation of AI applications. Very, very exciting. These are just the 5 of the 50. So we have 45 more to discover throughout the conference. We're, again, really on a fast pace to build things that help us build this next generation of applications, but build them with safety first. Now, one of the things that I think we should ask ourselves as developers is, why do we build? Why do we build technology? You know, this relationship
Well, it's my job.
between
they pay me.
economic progress and economic growth and technology has been there for a long time. In fact, this graph, when you see it, it's pretty stunning that for most of human history, we didn't have much economic growth, nor did we have much technology.
They're starting, by the way, in the year 1000.
250 years ago, right, which was long in building, by the way, from
GDP
perhaps
growth.
the Enlightenment to scientific revolution to the Industrial Revolution was
Jeff
close
Jarvis
to
would like
400
to see
years.
that printing
But
press
then there was
begin the
real
rise.
progress. You see that slope
Steam engine, telegraph,
going upwards.
electrification.
And then, of course, over the last 70 years, information technology has played a role across all of those sort of seminal moments on the march towards that dream machine. And of course, we now enter the age of AI.
AI
and
is
we
the
get
hockey
to
stick in
define
this, obviously.
what that slope looks like going forward.
Are you sure it's not quantitative easing?
But it's not even just economic growth on its own, right? We don't build just because we want economic growth. We want economic growth so that we can have human development index growth.
Are you channeling Ben
We
Bernanke
want
here?
the lifespans to go up. We want education and prosperity and standard of living to go up everywhere. That's why we build. That's why we innovate. That's why technology exists. It's not for technology's sake, but it is for that broad impact. And to me, this all came together. You know, in January when I was visiting India, I had a chance to see this demo, and it sort of had a very profound impact on me, because at some level it sort of motivated me to go into this next wave with that much more vigor to ensure that this time around, this technology reaches everybody in the world. There are 2 things that stood out for me, right? That things that we build can in fact make a difference to 8 billion people, not some small sort of group of people. And to be able to do that by diffusion that takes days and weeks, not years and centuries. Because we want that equitable growth, we want trust in technology, we want to ensure that we protect those fundamental rights that we care about, and that we do this in such a way that we manage our energy transition given the finite resource we have in our planet. That's, at the end of the day, what grounds us in our mission, to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more.
Except for China.
And so I want to leave
let's not
you
empower
with this
China.
video of what you as developers
So
are going
7
to do.
billion.
in
Let's
the
just say
days
7.
and
I
weeks
appreciate
and
the
months
goal
and
of
years
8
to
billion,
come.
but they need to be electrified and they need to be
Yeah,
internet.
let's start with electricity. They're a little farther down that
to
curve.
8 billion people all around the planet. Thank you very much and have a fantastic day.
Well, that was quick. We were expecting 90 minutes, but instead we got 30 minutes.
I think there's 2 more half-hour units after this.
All right. Well, while we're speaking Urdu, I'm going to thank our sponsor. If anything important happens, we will jump right back into the fray. Our show today brought to you by ACI Learning. 94% of CIOs and CISOs agree, and I think you'll agree if you listen, that attracting and retaining talent is job one. You know, your team, your talent, as it were, deserves to be empowered to keep your organization secured. And wouldn't it be nice if they enjoyed it if they were being entertained as well? Well, that's what ACI Learning does. Meaningful impact shows up as high engagement, and that means optimal performance. And your team will love ACI Learning. 30% of ACI learners are MSPs. It's their own business, right? No wonder ACI Learning is preferred. If you're spending your own money to get that training, it makes a big difference. Practice labs are the perfect place to test and experiment before deploying new apps or updates, all without compromising your live system. That's one of the many things ACI Learning offers. IT Pro, Audit Pro, these great practice labs. You want to know more? Fill out the form. go.acilearning.com/twit. You can get more information on a free 2-week trial for your team. Go.acilearning.com/twit. We thank them so much for supporting our coverage of Microsoft Build. You didn't miss anything.
I'm a bit annoyed that they're using the term Fabric again for something else.
What was Fabric before?
Well, Fabric is the software that glues their cloud together. It's how you communicate it on the cloud. It's still out there too.
Okay.
They just don't talk about it as much. What's wrong with what they were using the term Dataverse before? That's a good one.
Microsoft's notorious for overloading their terms, like Outlook, for instance, which means 20 different things. I think Copilot is the new overloaded term.
But it always has a word in front of it, at least.
Yeah, I guess, right? So they called Microsoft Fabric, and this is the idea that you have one unified data lake that is accessed by all your analytics and all your AI. And as you point out, that makes it more accurate. You have less to fear. But it's great for business intelligence. It's great for analytics, I would think, you know.
Yeah, it's a goal we've had all along. You always wanted one view of your company data.
Sure. And then apply AI to it, and you can extract all sorts of insights, I guess.
Yeah. Having a large language model lets you explore it. That's pretty powerful.
AI, Kevin Scott.
So here's Kevin Scott, CTO and EVP of AI. More AI.
That was an amazing video, and thank you, Satya, for sharing it. It really is inspiring to see this technology getting diffused so quickly and having a real positive impact across the globe, not just in the the urban innovation centers here in the United States and in the capitals of the industrialized world. So I'm so excited and happy to be with you all here today in person at Build after a 4-year hiatus. And
is this the first in person?
I guess it goes without saying.
Build, I guess it is.
Wow.
Since 2019.
Over these past 4 years. One of the biggest changes, and it's the theme of this conference, is what has happened in the world of AI, just even
really
in the
appreciate
past
your
year,
being
and what
in
that
your
means
hotel
for you
room
all
for us,
as
Richard.
developers.
Thank you.
I wrote
I
my
think it's a bit of a
first
sacrifice, but
program,
I
as a
thank you. I know you're going to
developer
get out there as soon as we're
when
done
I was 11 years old, I
press
think.
the flesh. But
and
thank
I
you.
remember what a thrilling moment.
No, my pleasure.
Like being able to do
keynotes are not my
something
favorite thing anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure the breakouts, meeting people, and going to the sessions are going to be the most valuable. Paul and Richard will join us tomorrow for the second of these keynotes, also 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern.
And then as a developer, figuring out how I could participate in that change. And the thing that I can say that is like the most exciting thing in the world to me, maybe the most exciting time that I've experienced in my career, is what that power of AI is doing right now to help all of us have that moment, that ability to take something in our hands, to look at what was possible, what was impossible and becoming possible now, and then going and doing something.
Is this how people at Microsoft dress on the campus, or is this just kind of a costume for
I'm afraid you're looking at the Kevin Scott look.
Okay, good. That's fine. No, it's cool. He's wearing, blue jeans and a Hawaiian shirt. And
we're going to start with...
I'm glad he dresses like this all the time. It'd feel kind of weird if he wore a suit most of the time and then showed up
incredible amount of
in a costume.
I haven't seen it so did Microsoft in a long time.
That's good.
Progress
I
with
like
these
that.
AI models, these foundation models that we're calling them now, and in particular, like the rapid pace of innovation that's being driven by OpenAI in their partnership with Microsoft. We really are setting the pace of innovation in the field of AI right now. And I think even for us, it's been surprising to see how much of the zeitgeist is being captured by things like ChatGPT and applications.
It must be interesting for people like him who have been working in AI for years to suddenly see everybody's talking about it. You're seeing it on the late night comedy TV shows,
platform for building AI applications.
I'm concerned of the implication that the ChatGPT hit was a plan. I think it was a surprise.
Foundation models, either hosted that we built ourselves.
A surprise from OpenAI. You don't think Microsoft expected them to go public so
which
early?
run great on Azure.
No, I think they didn't expect it to be that big of a hit.
We also have the world's best AI developer infrastructure. So whether that is using these super powerful computers
My concern is that it is essentially a toy,
or to build these
and people are treating
that we're going to be talking about at Build this year on top of that infrastructure.
To be clear, you should never be having existential conversations with software.
Yes, that's true.
Scott's keynote is
it's one thing to say how many widgets did we sell in the third quarter. That's that's going to be good at that.
Amazing and
it's another thing to say, should I leave my wife?
Information that you need to go do some pretty awesome stuff.
Or is Leo Laporte dead?
This end-to-end platform starts with Azure. We really believe that Azure is the cloud for AI.
We love it.
And it's not just the amazing, technically complicated, and brilliant work that our partners OpenAI have done on top of all of this infrastructure, but it's things that the teams at Microsoft
everybody's been preparing for this. Google with its TPUs. People expected this kind of big model training going on in the cloud for years.
Here in this room are building on top of Azure, making Azure this amazing.
It's also good for NVIDIA, right? They make a lot of the hardware
flavors of AI in the world
for this.
But it's not just Azure.
But they're only have 3 companies to sell it to.
Is the best client for AI development.
Does Amazon has TPU style
today, and Panos is going to dive into it pretty deeply tomorrow. So Satya showed the Windows Copilot,
the best client
which is going
for
to
AI
be
development.
an amazing part of your productivity
They're going to
story.
have to prove that.
GitHub Copilot works great on Windows, but increasingly what you're going to see is the ability to run these powerful AI models on your Windows PC so that you can develop these true hybrid AI applications that span the edge all the way to the cloud.
I'm going to take a wild guess that OpenAI is not running Windows in its data center.
But what I'm going to spend most of my talk discussing
since they're running in Azure, I
is this
suspect they're using
idea
Linux.
of the Copilot.
Exactly.
Satya's already referenced a whole bunch of the Copilots we've launched. Like as he said, it's almost as if we woke up on January the 1st and decided to do a whole bunch of press releases, but it's really been years of work where we have built a platform for building Copilots.
Getting a little close to the truth there, Kev.
These amazing releases that we've been doing, and we are sharing with you all today
complex
some of those
cognitive
patterns
tasks
that have helped us build Copilots and showing you and opening up our platform so that you can build Copilots of your own. And so just to start with, like a Copilot, simply said, is an application that uses modern AI, that has a conversational interface, that assists you with cognitive tasks. And we're going to talk a lot about what that means later. We believe that
notice you are still in the equation big time.
So like one of
it's
the
only
most
your
important
assistant.
pieces
You're the pilot. It's
there
your
are a whole bunch of Copilots that Microsoft has built, that maybe the most interesting Copilots that get built are by you all using these powerful tools that
He's calling them pilots,
both
though,
on Azure, on Windows, and in the open source community. So, as we start talking about this, I would love to bring to stage Greg Brockman, the president and co-founder of OpenAI, to talk about his experiences building GPT-4, like this powerful model that's powering a bunch of these Copilots.
Yeah, I think Altman's a business guy, right?
GPT, which maybe is the most interesting
smart to bring
Copilot in the world right now. So
to a developer
please
audience.
join me on stage, Greg.
Good to see you.
Awesome. Fantastic. So thank you so much for joining us today here at Build. So I wanted to start with the ChatGPT experience. So I believe it's caught us all by surprise, like just how crazy the adoption of ChatGPT has been and how much interest there is. But like it's a really big engineering challenge to build something like ChatGPT. So maybe you could talk a little
young
bit
guy,
with us about that.
35.
Yeah, you know,
Machine learning
ChatGPT
expert.
was a really interesting process, both from
I was looking at saying, hey, look, Seattle guy, Valley guy.
Yeah.
We'd actually been working
kind of looks that way, doesn't
kind of
it?
the idea of having a chat system for
I
a
don't
number
have
of
a
years.
collar.
We'd even demoed at Build an early version called WebGPT.
Yep.
And it was cool. It was a fun demo. We had a couple hundred contractors, literally people we had to pay to use this system.
Brockman was the CTO
kind of
of
useful,
Stripe.
kind of help with coding tasks.
Who
but for me,
worked
the moment
with
that
Elon
really
Musk
clicked
to create
was when we had GPT-4. And we had a traditional process. GPT-3, we just deployed the base model, so just been pre-trained. We hadn't really tuned it in any direction, and that was in the API. For 3.5, we'd actually gotten to the point where we were doing instruction following, where we had contractors who were given, here's an instruction, and here's how you're supposed to complete it. And we did that training on GPT-4. And the thing that
dropped
was
out
so
of Harvard.
interesting was I just, as a little experiment, was like, well,
dropped out of MIT, so he's dropped out some of the best.
After it already generated something. And the model replied with a perfectly good response that incorporated everything from before then. And so you realize that this model was capable enough. It had really generalized this idea of, well, if you really want me to follow instructions and you give me a new instruction, maybe you really want me to have a conversation. And so for me, that was the moment that it kind of clicked that, okay, we have this infrastructure that's already in place with earlier model, and this new model, even just using this sort of technology that wasn't meant for chat, it wants to chat, like it's going to work. And so this was a real aha moment. And
it's interesting. I wonder if chat is the best UI for
Yeah, and I think it was
AI.
really surprising to me. I remember when Sam called me up and said, hey, like, you know, we want to release this ChatGPT thing, and like, you know, we think it's going to be a few weeks worth of, you know, work to condition one of these models. And I was like, sure, why not? And I had no idea that it was going to work technically as well as it did, and that it was going to be such a crazy success.
Why is
And so,
Altman
you know,
asking
maybe
Scott for permission to do
related to
something?
that, I
Who works
know
for
that
who?
you
Yeah, really.
are one of the principal architects on all
Can
of the
we turn this on? It's going to cost you $1 billion in
GPT-4.
Azure
so
fees.
GPT-4 powers parts of ChatGPT, and it has just really been a revelation for everyone who's been working in the field of AI. So I wonder if you could share a little bit of, you know, what are some of the interesting things that you found about the development of GPT-4?
Yeah, GPT-4 was very much a labor of love. As a company, we'd actually, after GPT-3, had multiple failed attempts to surpass the performance of that model. It's not an easy thing. And what we ended up doing was going back to the drawing board, rebuilding our entire infrastructure. And a lot of the approach we took was get every detail right. And I'm sure that there's still bugs. I'm sure that there's still more details to be found. But you know, an analogy from Jakob, who is one of the leads on the project, that I really like is it's almost like building a rocket, where you want all the engineering tolerances to be incredibly tiny. And so lots of little details, like for example, it used to be, turns out that if we had a bug in our checkpointing, where if you killed the job at exactly the wrong moment, you could end up with a blend between, you know, new weights and old weights when the job restarted. Machine learning mostly doesn't care. It's happy to recover from that. But it's one of those things where every time you see a weird wiggle in your graph, you're like, I wonder if this was that particular issue or if it's a real other one. And so if you go back and you really pay attention to every single detail and just do the boring engineering work, like that is the main thing that I do.
Yeah, well, I mean, the boring engineering you work do is like at a just an unbelievable, phenomenal scale.
It is
but, like,
Speak
I do
Like
think
Yoda
that's a
Day,
good,
so I just that's
you know,
what he was doing
parable
right
for
there. I just
everyone
want
in
you
the
to know.
room. It's sometimes the boring engineering work.
Everybody seems
that,
a bit
really
fumbly.
needs to
Like
the
they haven't been on
innovation
stage
of
for a
work
few
do.
years.
Yeah,
so
this is not
Satya
their
talked
natural
a little bit in his talk
environment,
about
is
this shared
They're all
approach
out of
that
practice.
we're developing
Yeah.
for plugins.
That's
this idea
maybe that's
that
a
we're
good
going to
point. Yeah, 4
empower
years,
all
yeah.
of these folks in the room to write.
We're watching
software
Kevin
that
Scott,
can
who's
extend the
CTO and EVP of
capability
AI at
things like
Microsoft, interview
ChatGPT and like
one
all
of the
these
founders
Copilots
of
that we're building.
OpenAI, Greg
And I know
Brockman.
that also has been an interesting technical challenge, and like we
What's
still
nice is this
don't
is
yet
not
have
really
all the
canned.
technical.
I'd almost
No, they
prefer
seem
them
to just be chatting.
Yeah, I'd almost prefer that than to some
get it into the state that we
horrible
ultimately
scripted.
want it to be in. So I wonder if you like have some thoughts.
You've
wanted
seen
to
those
share on that.
Microsoft conversations
absolutely.
before.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's been a really amazing opportunity both for
sort of every developer to leverage this technology in a way that just makes the system better for everyone. Right, and that's what I think is so exciting. Part of the reason we designed it as an open standard was because that way, as a developer, you build this thing once, and then any AI.
Well, this was some of the debate: is it an open standard? In fact, the most recent release is not open.
What really drove it was anyone can build a website, and now everyone gets access to that.
There's an open interface.
Revealed their training sources.
Yeah, there's an API, but they're not completely open about how they got what they got.
Having any developer who wants be able to plug in and get the power of the system and be
having an API, neither open nor AI
into ChatGPT is really.
I don't know. Is open having an API mean you're open? I don't know.
Conceptually, it's so simple. It reminds me a little bit about the first HTTP server that I ever wrote. Like, if you understand the core concepts, you can stand up something very quickly that can do something very powerful. And like, I think that is an awesome thing as an engineer.
Just get and put all the way down.
So, in your role at OpenAI, like, you are constantly thinking about how to push the limits of the technology. And I think one of the really amazing things about our partnership is working with you all. It feels like we get to see a little bit further into the future than we otherwise would be able to. So I wonder if you
This is more like a session, isn't it?
About
Keynote.
what's exciting to you about what's over the horizon, like either with applications or with the models.
Yeah, the thing that to me is interesting is we're almost on a bit of a TikTok cycle, like
Don't say TikTok.
Intel of yore, where you kind of come up with an innovation and then you really push it.
Application is like Moore's Law, and it'll double every year.
That early stage of really pushing it, right? That we still have vision capabilities that have been announced, but that we're still productionizing. And I think that it'll just kind of change how these systems work and how they feel and kind of the kinds of applications.
So what's the tick and what's the talk? So
I'm really excited to, if you also look back at kind of the history, that over the past couple of years, I think we did like a 70% price reduction 2 years ago. That basically this past year we did a 90% cost reduction, like a 10x cost drop. Like that's crazy, right?
Crazy.
And I think we're going to be able to do the same thing repeatedly with
as long as you keep giving us money, Microsoft.
Right now, it's expensive. It's it's not fully available.
More Azure.
That's one of the things that I think will change.
Yeah, and I think that is a thing that I would want to leave everyone here in the room with is that and it's what we say to all of the developers inside of Microsoft building on top of these things. Like, what's expensive today won't be tomorrow because the progress there is so fantastic. So I think we've got time to squeeze one last thing in. So you've already dispensed a bunch of like really great advice for developers here in the room, but like maybe one more thing that you would leave the audience with.
I think that in this field, the technology is clearly getting better and better. But the thing that I think every developer can do that is hard for us and even Microsoft at Microsoft scale to do is to really go into specific domains and figure out how to make this technology work there. So I really love companies that are in the legal domain and really getting expertise and talking to lots of lawyers and understanding what their pain points are with this technology. And so I think that there's a huge amount of value.
It's kind of fundamental in all coding is you have domain knowledge and you have the coding knowledge.
You heard it from Greg.
The job of writing business-specific code is learning the domain.
Thank you so much, Greg, for being with us here today.
I don't think that was that insightful, but okay.
Well, it's also a question of can the domain knowledge person
one
influence
more
that.
interesting.
That would be interesting. Of course, that's the Holy Grail.
We have Andre Karpathy here. I think I see Andre in the front row. So Andre is going to be here on this stage later today doing a state of GPT. So he's going to walk through the technology from beginning to end. It's going to be an awesome session.
Was at Tesla,
tight on seating, so try to get your spot here. You are not going to want to miss that.
And then went, of course, to OpenAI, specializing in deep learning and computer vision.
So Satya mentioned a bunch of the Copilots that Microsoft has launched, and that our partners have launched. So, we sort of think of ChatGPT as fitting this Copilot pattern. Bing Chat certainly, GitHub Copilot, the Microsoft Security Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, and Designer. Many, many more. So the thing that we noticed as we were building these Copilots, starting with GitHub Copilot several years ago, is that the idea of a Copilot is actually pretty general. So this notion that you're going to have a multi-turn conversational agent-like interface on your software that helps you do cognitively cognitively complex things applies to more than just helping someone do software development. And that's sort of what you've seen. Like we have search copilots now, we're gonna have security copilots, we have productivity copilots, and we're gonna have all of the copilots that you all build. And the thing that we noticed for us at Microsoft is that we needed to look at what is common across all of these things so that we can understand how to design great user experiences and what the technology stack is that is going to empower us to deliver these things safely, responsibly, cost-effectively at scale. So the only reason that we have been able to do this sort of blitz of Copilot announcements and delivering these products to users so quickly is because we stopped and took the time and energy to go build a Copilot technology stack that would allow us to move quickly with safety. So one of the things that I want to talk with you about today is what that technology stack looks like. But before we dive into the details, I think Satya's reminder to us all, why do we do what we do? So one of the important reasons that we have taken the time to sort of think about this Copilot stack as one coherent thing is platforms are important. It gives us the opportunity to build things that are more ambitious than you otherwise would be able to build, and it gives you, the developers, a chance to build things that wouldn't be possible if the platform didn't exist. So I love this quote from Bill Gates. It may or may not be apocryphal, but it's still just been attributed to Bill for many, many years. And what Bill is saying here is that the true value of a platform only materializes when the value created on that platform accrues to the people who are building on top of the platform, not the platform builder itself.
Kind of the canonical definition of platform.
And so, if that's not true of a platform, then it's really not
something
a platform.
Microsoft's actually good at.
And,
absolutely.
The thing that makes platforms even greater than all of that value that they can potentially produce is it prevents folks from having to bear the burden of building very complicated things from the ground up just to build the application that they want to go build. It's great if you want to build all of this stuff.
So they're seeing, and it makes sense, Copilot is a platform.
But if what you want to do is build a legal Copilot like Greg was talking about, or you want to make a Copilot for medicine or a Copilot for helping people get through their insurance claims.
I think it's fair.
You are not going to want to build all of this stuff from the ground up. It will be economically infeasible.
Here's the
amount of compute that we are investing in and just sort of the scale of all of that infrastructure is absolutely astronomical. And the fact that the things that come out of the other end of the compute, these foundation models in this entire platform, that they are reusable and generalizable,
for Microsoft,
is
they
really a fantastic things. And one of the things that we've been betting on for 5 years now, that this was going to be a durable property of these systems. So one of the things that you're going to hear a lot about at Build is this idea that the foundation models are powerful and they're getting more powerful, but they can't do everything. And you shouldn't have to wait around until we train a model that can do the thing that you want to do. You should have ways to accommodate your application,
and OpenAI
build your application on top of this technology, even when the model itself isn't complete or perfect. And so we're going to talk about a ton of ways that you can do that. Satya's already referenced plugins. Greg and I chatted about plugins. Plugins are going to be one of those powerful mechanisms that you use to augment a Copilot or an AI application so that it can do more than what the base platform allows you to do. And what a plugin may do is it helps augment your AI system so that it can access APIs. And via API can do anything like change state in a digital system or retrieve information. For sure, people will use plugins to retrieve useful information. You've already seen some video demos of that happening already, and you're going to hear a lot more about that. It allows you to perform arbitrary computations and to safely act on the user's behalf.
There's a Wolfram Alpha
really
plugin,
the way that we think
instance.
about these plugins is they're almost like actuators of the digital world. So anything that you can imagine doing digitally, you can connect a Copilot to those things via plugins.
This is what we're worried about. Don't connect it to the nuclear launch codes, though.
What I'm going to spend the rest of this talk focusing on is
you don't want to give AI's agency until you're really sure
what does the Copilot look like?
They're on
what
your
is
side.
shared? What's common among all of these things that we built, and like what are the platform components that we're building to help you all build Copilots of your own? So this starts from the user experience. There are some things that are the same, and there are some things that are different about building Copilot user experiences. There is an application architecture, and there will be some familiar things about it, but like a bunch of new stuff to learn. And then it is so important for all of us to think about safety and security. You'll inherit a lot of that by using the tools that we built for you all, but it's a thing that you need to think about from the very first steps of building your Copilot applications. So I just want to start with the thing that doesn't change when you're thinking about building a Copilot. You have to build a great product. So it is something that we sometimes forget, but you have to understand what that unmet user need is, like what it is that you are trying to make better, where you have a unique understanding of that thing that maybe no one else has. And then you need to apply the technology. Like, sure, the tech is great. It's like making a whole bunch of things that were impossible or infeasible or expensive, possible, easier, and cheaper. But it does not absolve any of us of the responsibility of sort of thinking about what good product making looks like. And one thing in particular that you have to really bear in mind
that's a good thing
is
to note.
The model is not your product. Unless you are an infrastructure company, like the model itself is just infrastructure that is enabling your product. Like, it isn't the thing in and of itself. And so, like, one of the mistakes that I've seen just being in the tech industry over 20 years is like having people sort of fixate on infrastructure versus fixating on product. So, it's just a thing that, we even have to remind our teams here inside of Microsoft over and over and over again, is like, use the infrastructure that you have at hand that is best going to enable you to solve your problem. Don't build infrastructure that you don't have to build. And again, it's just up to you all, it's up to us. Like, we have to build great experiences, things that delight users. Like, we got to get things out into the hands of users
developers once in a while.
See what works,
it's all about
see
the
what
product,
doesn't work,
make it a good experience, solve a problem.
So let's dive into the Copilot stack. So Satya already showed this, and like, we're going to blow it up a little bit now. So this is how our Copilots at Microsoft are structured, and like, these are some of the things that we're going to be diving into greater detail in subsequent talks for you all to have a look at, to pick up, to use, to learn about, and to make things. Some of this may look familiar. So there are 3 boxes. You can think of these as roughly corresponding to the 3 tiers of a normal application. So you've got a front end, you've got a mid-tier, you've got a back end. So the front end, like the things that we've already talked about, is like, you start with understanding what your amazing product idea is. The thing that's a little bit different about the user experience design with Copilots is we have more or less been building user experiences the same way for 180 plus years since Ada Lovelace wrote the first program. Like, we have had to understand what the machine is capable of, and then we are fiddling around with how we express the connection between the human and the machine, like, in very explicit ways. So like, what that means for you all is like fiddling around with user interface elements, menus, binding code to actions, like trying to fully anticipate the needs of the user and architecting your applications in a particular and familiar way so that people know how to get at all the functionality, the capability that you really built into your code. The thing that's a little bit different in a Copilot is you're going to spend less time thinking about like what your user interface widgets are.
Microsoft have an advantage because they are both the providers and the consumers of the technology.
They have this really natural mechanism to express what it is they want with natural language. And so like what you have to think about in the design of these Copilots is like what
they certainly have standing when they come to the developers and say, look, you know, we're developing on top of this.
We
have some experience.
Like a bunch of the stuff that I'm about to show you in the orchestration layer with plugins, and you know, maybe even with fine-tuning models or using a portfolio of models to accomplish. But it's going to be way less of that fiddling around, like mapping user interface elements to little chunks of code than you're accustomed
to. We're back to the command line.
And you also, on the flip side of that, have to think about what you want the Copilot not to do. And so this is like important in how you're thinking about safety, but Also because like the thing at the bottom of the stack, these foundation models are sort of like a big bucket of unrestrained capability. Like you're the one who oftentimes has to restrain it to like your particular domain.
Big bucket of unrestrained capability.
That's a show title for you, right?
The work that we did is to like
I must have that muscle well developed.
Helping you solve your development problems. Like you're not trying to figure out what the best menu item is on Taco Bell when you're sitting in GitHub Copilot trying to write a piece of code. So that's the user interface, like just broad brush, like what is different there. So now let's talk about orchestration. So orchestration is like the business logic of your Copilot. And as I mentioned, when we started building our own Copilots, every team inside of the company was building their own orchestration layer. So like all of that logic to figure out like how to get a thing to, sequence through all of the models, do all of the filtering, like do all of the prompt augmentation that you have to do to like build a really great app. And we just sort of noticed that there was commonality across all of those things. So one of the things that we did that greatly affected our ability to get these Copilots out to market at scale and to do more ambitious things was to decide that inside of Microsoft, we are going to have one orchestration mechanism that we will use to help build our apps. That is called Semantic Kernel, which we've open sourced, and there's a session on Semantic Kernel later at Build, which I would encourage you all to attend. But like we also know that we're not the only ones who've seen that there's all of this commonality across orchestration. And there's some really great open source orchestration tools that work super well inside of the Azure ecosystem that we're building. So Harrison from LangChain, shout out to Harrison, is here with us in the front row. Yeah, give Harrison a round of applause, please. LangChain is like one of the most popular open source orchestration mechanisms.
I mean, it's just an API, so it doesn't really matter.
Harrison, with a very small team, has built a thing that is useful to an extraordinary number of developers. So, and orchestration isn't a solved problem. Like we're gonna see a lot of new ideas there. And like the thing that I want to assure everyone here in the room is that you'll be able to use whatever orchestration mechanism you want. Like we'll give you some options that we think are great for us. Like we'll point you to some of our open source favorites, but if you want to roll your own thing, like that's your choice. Like I'm a developer, I like rolling my own stuff.
Have you looked at the API at all, Rich?
One of the things that you'll see in Scott Guthrie's talk,
kind of a REST
that's
API,
coming up next is PromptFlow, which is another orchestration mechanism that actually unifies LangChain and Semantic Kernel. And so like I encourage you all to go dive a little bit deeper there. So inside of the orchestration layer, the fundamental thing that you're going to be manipulating is a prompt. And so a prompt is just a bucket of tokens that is generated by the user experience layer of your application. It could be, in something like Bing Chat or ChatGPT,
so you
like
tokenize
the language. Like a thing that a user is asking the model to do. Or it could be something that your application constructs, like where it's not a direct natural language thing from the user, but a natural language thing that you are conveying to the model from your application. And a big part of handling those prompts at the beginning stages of orchestration is prompt and response filtering. So basically saying, I'm not going to allow these prompts through because maybe they will cause the model to respond in a way that doesn't meet the needs of your application or do something unsafe. And you also filter responses on the way back up. So after the model has produced a response to the prompt, like you may decide that you want to filter some or all of the prompt out. Like a natural thing to where this happens is with the safety infrastructure that you're going to see Sarah Bird talk about in her talk later. But like there are other reasons that you may want to.
That's interesting. The burden for this is on the developer, you
also have this unit of
programmer, not the
prompt. Code called the meta prompt.
They have some tooling to make it easier.
And the meta prompt is the standing set of instructions that you give to your Copilot that get passed down to the model on every turn of conversation that tells it how to accommodate itself to the Copilot that you're trying to build. It's where a bunch of your safety tuning is going to happen. It's where you sort of tell the model like what personality you want it to have. So like for instance, we use the meta prompt to do things like telling Bing Chat to be more balanced versus more precise. It is also like how you sort of teach the model new capabilities. So like you can even think of meta-prompt design as a form of fine-tuning. And so it's just far easier to do things in the meta-prompt than to like have to go down to the lower layers of the infrastructure and start rolling your own things. Once you get past the meta-prompt and the prompt filtering stages, like you start to think about grounding. And grounding is all about adding additional context to the prompt that may be useful for helping the model respond to the prompt that's flowing down. So in the case of Bing Chat, which I think is the first place that was really doing retrieval augmented generation before retrieval augmented generation had a name, we basically look at the prompt, the user query, and issue a query to the search index to find relevant documents for the prompt. We add those documents to the prompt and send it to the model so that it has that extra context to provide a good answer. Increasingly, people are using vector databases to do retrieval augmented generation. So like you may take the prompt, compute a set of embeddings for them, and then do a lookup in a vector database that is indexed by those embeddings to get relevant documents for the prompt and give that extra context for the model to give you a better answer. But you may also augment the prompt and do grounding with arbitrary web APIs, and like you can even think about using plugins for doing grounding. And so the next step here is like, this is where plugin execution happens. So at this stage, like again, what I just mentioned in grounding, like you may use the plugin to add some extra context to the prompt before it goes down to the model, or you may execute something, do a plugin execution on the way back up from the model so that you can take an action on a system. So once you get through like all of the stuff in the orchestration layer, and I should say like also, you may be doing multiple turns through this whole system. So like calling multiple models, like making multiple passes through this whole pipeline in order to like get what you need from the system. But at the very bottom of the stack are foundation models and infrastructure. And we give you a bunch of choices for how to use foundation models in this Copilot platform on Azure and on Windows. So you can choose to use one of the hosted foundation models like the ChatGPT model or the GPT-4 model that are now available on the Azure OpenAI API service. You can fine-tune one of these hosted foundation models. The ChatGPT 3.5 fine-tuning APIs are live now, and you'll be able to fine-tune GPT-4 soon. But if neither of those options work for you, like you have sort of exhausted all of the things that you can do in the orchestration layer to get your Copilot to do what you need, and neither of these things will work for you. Like you can't wholly solve your problem with a hosted API because of whatever reason. You can't use the fine-tuning APIs to accomplish what you want to accomplish. This is not
for somebody using Copilot. This is for somebody developing a Copilot in a specific domain.
About what's happening in the open source
essentially what he's done, like his team has done to create Copilot.
Brilliant work happening
you as a
with
developer will have to do if you want to do it.
And one of the things that you will see in the next talk,
this is what we wanted to hear at Build. We're going to build our own.
Model catalog that is going to be a place you can go inside of Azure to find the most popular models on Hugging Face and in GitHub, where you'll be able to push button, provision, and deploy those models to Azure to use in your Copilots.
Bring your own models.
And also, like you can train your own model from scratch. Like as we mentioned several times, like from the most ambitious models in the world, the ones that OpenAI are training, all the way down to like smaller things like Azure AI supercomputing infrastructure and our environment give you a great way to train your model from scratch if that's what you need to do. So this is the Copilot stack, top to bottom. And what I want to do now is make this maybe a little bit less abstract by talking about a Copilot that I wrote. So I host
this is much more like a developer session than a keynote, which is great.
Every month,
I think that's
when
fine.
the podcast airs,
I'm fascinated. I don't know if our audience is
to write a social media post to advertise the podcast.
It's interesting.
And I suck at this. Like I forget to read my emails, like they have to bug me over and over again. And like they really want a Kevin social media Copilot so they don't have to go through the irritation of dealing with me. And so, I had the honor recently of interviewing Neil deGrasse Tyson on the podcast. And so like, I'm just gonna walk you through this Copilot that we built that we actually just ran and it did the social media post for the
it's a
Neil
social media
podcast.
Social media. I love it. I need this social media.
Here's what it looks like.
Copilot.
So just end-to-end picture, like the Copilot runs on a Windows PC. It uses a mixture of open source models and hosted models. It does retrieval augmented generation, and it calls a plugin to finish doing its work.
Wow.
So let's walk through these step by step. So the first step of this process is we have an audio file and we need a transcript. So
it uses
on
Whisper AI
Windows
to
PC,
do the transcripts.
We take the OpenAI open source Whisper model and run the audio through the model to get a transcript. Does a really amazing job. So once we have the transcript, like the next stage in the orchestration is we have the Databricks DALL-E 2.0 12 billion parameter large language model running on our Windows PC.
Nice.
And we ask it some things about the transcript, like for instance, who was the guest this episode? Yeah. Like, because again, we want to do this like lights out, like not have to have Kevin answering a bunch of questions because he's slow and annoying. So
unlike
the next thing we do once we have the transcript and we have all of this information that we've extracted from the transcript, like we want to send a chunk of that to the Bing API, or like we want to send Neil's name to the Bing API to get a bio. And then we're going to combine all of this stuff together into
bio sources,
a single packet of information, like a big prompt that has some stuff about the transcript, and some stuff about Neil, and we get our social media blurb.
Sounds like a lot of points where you could introduce error.
Like this is a pretty good blurb. So we're going to go to the next step here, which is like we need a thumbnail. So we call our hosted OpenAI API to get an image from the DALL-E model. This looks pretty good. It's cosmic. It's sort of podcasty. Like plenty good enough for this post. And so the last step is we want to invoke a plugin for LinkedIn that will take the thumbnail and the post and the link to the podcast and just post it to my LinkedIn feed. One of the super important things about this is we are before we take an action on the user's behalf, we want to present to them like what it is that's going to happen. Because if for some reason or another the model went haywire and produced something that we didn't want to post, like once I hit yes, this is going to 800,000 people on LinkedIn. So we review, we click yes, and we post.
Wow.
So, and this is the live post that's like on LinkedIn right now. You should go check out this episode with Neil. It's awesome.
I have to point out, the text it generated was exactly what you'd expect from ChatGPT, kind of generic, effusive BS.
Illustration
corporate
for you all. Like
corporate speak, but you know what? It's LinkedIn. It's exactly the right.
It was really pretty easy.
That's probably appropriate. Sometimes you need corporate
speak. Pretty easy to do. So we posted all of the code on the GitHub repo. Like I encourage all of you to check it out.
Yeah,
like
social media is a very good place to
about
do
how
this
to build your first Copilot. So the thing that we want to talk about,
your expectations for literacy are low.
Exactly. Literacy is not the problem.
To Scott's
it's usually very good at, it's very
AI
grammatical.
Safety. So it's the first thing that we think about when we're building Copilots. And we think about it at every step of the process. You're going to hear a ton about this great AI safety work from my colleague Sarah Boyd, who runs our responsible AI infrastructure team inside of the AI platform group.
I had Sarah on Run As.
Really
that's right. I remember.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Like we're giving you all some amazing tools to go build really safe, responsible AI applications. Just very quickly, like I want to mention one of the things that you're hearing here first, Satya mentioned it, is we're giving you a bunch of like amazing media provenance tools that will help users understand when they're seeing generated content or not. Like we're going to be watermarking all of the content that we are producing, and we're giving you tools where if your AI applications, your Copilots are generating synthetic content, you'll be able to call our APIs and add these cryptographic provenance watermarks to your tools. It's super, super exciting stuff. So, Copilots. You have heard from us that we have this amazing new software development pattern. You have heard about how we think about architecting copilots, and you have heard our enthusiasm that like not only are there going to be a bunch of copilots from Microsoft and from our partners, but like we really think that you all are going to be the ones who build the most interesting copilots in the world. It's just like any other major platform, like the thing that makes your PC great, the thing that makes the internet great, the thing that makes a smartphone great, aren't the things that launch when those platforms launch. It's what you all will create on top of them. So I want to share one anecdote before we go. I was an intern at Microsoft Research in 2001. I came to MSR with my PhD advisor when he went on sabbatical. And we would go out with our research group every Thursday to this burrito joint in Bellevue that I think is closed now, called Acapulco Fresh. And occasionally this gentleman would join us. His name is Murray Sargent. And Murray, like I was a 30-year-old PhD student, seemed like a legend to me. Because Murray was the guy who had broken the 64K limit on the Intel microprocessors. So like many of you may be too young to even remember this, but at one point in time, like the computers that we shipped could only use 64 kilobytes of memory for doing the work that they had to do. And Murray was the guy when the 286 came out that figured out protected mode and got Microsoft software to work beyond that 64K memory barrier. And it's like unbelievable to sort of think about what impact like small things like that had on the trajectory of the industry. So, you know, I was in awe of Murray, and I wondered every time we had lunch with him, what am I ever going to do in my career that would allow someone like me, like a younger version of myself, to look at me and think, wow, like this guy did some legendary stuff. And so this is the moment for all of us now. We have capabilities in our hands with these new tools in the early days of this new platform to absolutely do amazing things, where literally the challenge for you all is to go do some legendary
stuff
that someone will be in awe of you for
That's great.
One day.
I like it.
And so with that, I would like to bring to stage my colleague, Executive Vice President of Cloud and AI, the legend himself, Scott Guthrie.
Oh, Scott Goo.
Yeah. And a red shirt.
Red shirt Goo.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is great to be back here at Build. I'm really looking forward to spending the week with you. You know, as Kevin and Satya have talked about today, you know, AI is going to profoundly change how we work and how every organization operates. And every existing app is going to be reinvented with AI. And we're going to see new apps be built with AI that weren't possible before. And Kevin just walked us through the Copilot stack and explained the different layers involved in building solutions that take deep advantage of large AI models. I'm going to build on his talk and walk you through how we're going to make it easy to develop these AI solutions using Azure, GitHub, and Visual Studio. We're going to show a lot of code today in my talk and introduce you along the way to some amazing new capabilities
I wonder
that
if
we're
we
announcing
should stick with this, or maybe this is a good time to wrap up if he's going to show
the Visual Studio
a bunch
family
of
products,
coding.
which includes both Visual Studio.
It's going to get codey from here.
It's going to get pretty specific, and I want to encourage people who are interested in coding to continue to watch. I certainly would like to, but given that we've got another show in about half an hour, and I know Rich probably wants to get to work, I think this would be a great time to break off. We saw a lot. I mean, Satya Nadella came out and essentially set the table saying, look, we've got 50 AI announcements we're going to do here at Build. I'm going to give you just 5 of them.
Yeah, but also not a grab bag. Like clearly a consistent theme. Like this is a better organized keynote than I've seen in a while.
Yeah, and you know, I have to say it's a very developer specific keynote, which I kind of like. A lot of times
it's Build, and so it feels right.
It feels right.
So they They gave a big piece they basically announced that there's going to be Windows Copilot, so it's good to know that's out there. But from there, they've gone into, you're a developer and you want to do this, and let's do it.
Very much into the
I wish the
nitty-gritty,
marketing for Build had been like this, because this messaging here is excellent.
Yeah.
You just didn't know it from the outside.
Well, and I have to say, with both Google I/O and Apple's WWDC, they usually take these keynotes as an opportunity to, sell the company and sell the idea, and very much less to talk to developers in specifics. I'm impressed. I think this is great. Satya talked about.
I'm really pleased.
The 5 products that he talked about: search grounding in Bing to ChatGPT. He called it search grounding, but I think essentially it means we're going to see more AI in Bing search. He talked about Windows Copilot being across all of Microsoft. The Copilot stack, which adds extensibility and plugins. We're going to hear a lot about plugins going forward, taking these models and adding, specific capabilities like, say, Wolfram Alpha or Open Table, so that you can use the AI to do real world things. He talked about the Azure AI Studio. And then finally, Microsoft Fabric, which you say overloads an existing product from Microsoft.
Yeah, and it's just not a name that relates to data near as much.
Right.
When there's so many other good data names. Like, I'm just annoyed. It's like, you had Dataverse already. Why wouldn't you stay with that? You've been talking to us about consolidating our data into common repositories for decades. But now, okay, we have another name.
Yeah. And it's essentially a data lake for all of your data that you'll be using the AI with.
Which I thought was what the old data lake was anyway. Right.
Yusuf Mehdi came on very briefly just to, kind of talk more about this idea of AI in Bing. And then a great talk, I thought, from Kevin Scott. He did a little quick interview with
He had an hour,
Yeah.
He was
He deserved it.
Voice.
He's the guy the developers want to hear from. He's the CTO for AI. And I think he not only had a great little kind of informal chat with one of the founders of OpenAI, Greg Brockman, but then walked through what it would take to create an AI-based product on Microsoft's Copilot stack. In fact, that's what, if you quickly go to what we're missing, that's exactly what they're doing right now.
They're going deeper into writing the code.
Yeah. Scott Gu has actually introduced somebody who's doing the writing. I don't know if it's Hanselman or somebody, but somebody who's actually doing the coding. Is that on the left? Is that C#? What is he writing in? I see def. I usually look at how you define a function to figure out what.
Python.
That's Python. Right. Yeah. No semicolons. I should have known.
There you go.
Lots of white space. Okay. And then seeing on the right, Copilot generating some code to add in, which is a really, it's a cool demo. And of course, if you want to watch it, I invite you to go to build.microsoft.com, because we are going to cut away. Any takeaways, any surprises today?
I was surprised to see Kevin Scott, such a big piece of the story. And that to me is exciting. It talks about a new tone coming from Microsoft.
I love it.
Satya looks comfortable. But, my friend Gu seems even more comfortable. They say they a little bit of a bumpy start, but that's fine. Folks who got moving along. Didn't see Altman. I don't think that's a bad thing either. The theme is very clear, and they delivered on the one most important thing is, yes, you get to build your own.
Yeah. And here's how.
You would have, this would have been a waste if they didn't get to that, and they nailed it. So one of the better dev keynotes I've seen in a really long time from anybody, much less Microsoft.
We're going to come back tomorrow at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern, with part 2. What do you think? They mentioned Panos Panay will be at part 2. What do you think we'll be seeing?
I think more conversation about the Windows Copilot is going to be interesting. I do know that there's a deeper run into all of these workflows, more in the data analytics side and so forth. So there's lots to explore still. I mean, the word has gone out inside of Microsoft. If you're not doing an AI related thing for your product, you're making a mistake. And so every product team has something to show.
Yeah, not just Microsoft. I suspect a lot of companies right now are hopping to it to get AI into their products. Rich will join us again with Paul Thurrott this time tomorrow.
I'm gonna be a little late tomorrow.
That's fine.
One of my interviews got rescheduled. VPs are difficult, as you know.
Yeah.
And so I'll jump in as soon as I wrap up with Bob Sir, and I'll be able to catch that. And then we're going straight into Windows Weekly from there.
Then we're segueing right into Windows Weekly, and then I know you have to leave Windows Weekly
for Mark Russinovich.
Which is very exciting. You're going to have will these all be on Run As Radio or?
Yeah, these will be Run As Radio.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
So, I'm really looking forward to it.
That's Richard Campbell, runasradio.com, .net rocks, and of course, regular on Windows Weekly. We love having you on. Thank you for spending the morning with us.
That was good fun, Leo. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard Campbell. And thanks also to ACI Learning, our sponsor for all of our TWiT news this year, and our studio sponsor too. Your IT skills, I hate to say it, outdated in about 18 months. And in this AI era, maybe even faster. Stay ahead of the curve. Strengthen your IT expertise with affordable certification-based learning that will launch or advance your career. 1/3 of IT jobs these days require a cybersecurity certification. Ongoing training is critical to avoiding redundancy. Let ACI Learning help you choose the best certifications for your career and uncover the suitable funding options to help you pay for your training. If you're, for instance, a vet, they've got great training for you. Lots of great stuff. Don't just land a job. Start a secure, lifelong career. ACI Learning is with you every step of the way with binge-worthy training. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit to learn more. Use the code TWIT30 for 30% off a standard or premium individual IT Pro membership. We thank ACI Learning so much for all the help that they have given us this year, keeping the lights on. We really appreciate it. Thanks also to our Club TWiT members who do all of that. Let's just quickly check the stage again. Scott Guthrie talking about how people are using GitHub Copilot right now. We saw a coding demo, and back to that Copilot stack we saw earlier. They're really, I love it. This is a keynote that developers are actually getting something of value out of. I think that's really fantastic.
On message.
That provides plugin interoperability
Absolutely.
across ChatGPT and all of the Microsoft Copilot offerings.
Thank you, Richard Campbell. Thanks to all of our viewers. If you want to continue to watch, and I don't blame you, I'm kind of tempted myself, build.microsoft.com has the live stream. And we thank you for being here. We'll see you next time, actually tomorrow, I hope, for part 2. Take care.
Hey, I'm Rod Pyle, editor-in-chief of Ad Astra Magazine, and each week I join with my co-host to bring you This Week in Space, the latest and greatest news from the final frontier. We talk to NASA chiefs, space scientists, engineers, educators, and artists, and sometimes we just shoot the breeze over what's hot and what's not in space, books, and TV. And we do it all for you, our fellow true believers. So whether you're an armchair adventurer or waiting for your turn to grab a slot in Elon's Mars rocket, join us on This Week in Space and be part of the greatest adventure of all time.